Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I've got 4 terrifying subscriber encounters to share with you. I also have a update with one of those subscriber encounters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reshare the subscriber's encounter and give you his update. Also, his fiance reached out as well with her own view on the encounter. So before we get into this exciting upload for today, a couple of links. As you know, I rely on my Patreon, my PayPal, and my merch to help this channel to continue to grow and go. All of those links are in the description below. I also have a second channel for creepypasta, fanfiction, and scary voice acting. Stories that really don't fit on this channel. Now, if that's anything that you're into, follow that link and give those stories a listen. You may just like what you hear. Now, I've taken enough of your time, guys. Let's get on with these terrifying subscriber Dogman encounters. Shall we? Today's first subscriber Dogman encounter comes to us from New South Wales in Australia. I'll start by giving a brief background on my mother and how she came to encounter the Dogman on 2 separate occasions. My mother grew up during the 50s and 60s in a small town of rural New South Wales in southeast of Australia, although she never saw or heard of the Dogman until her encounter in 2018. She has, however, heard of Yahweh's or Sasquatch, Bigfoot sighting in the area surrounding her hometown. She spent her life moving around the country and being a mother until one day she had a yearning in her heart to see her hometown once again. So she left the outback of Queensland for her hometown of Parkes, New South Wales. She couldn't land a house or accommodation in the town itself, but found a rental out on an old Air Force base called Bogan Gate that currently runs a explosive manufacturing plant surrounded by a 7-foot barbed wire fence. Inside are cordoned off areas where civilians are not allowed, yet the old barracks of the Air Force personnel were available to the public for rental vacancy. It seemed no one stayed there long, as most houses were empty or used by fly-in, fly-out mine site workers, and a couple of senior citizens living the quiet life. So my mother moves into one of these old Air Force houses. She's there roughly 4 to 6 months. I was in Perth, Western Australia at the time of her encounters. Although we do have a close relationship, she chose to call me when she was terrified for her life one night. At that time, I was unaware of Dogman, so I could not understand what she was seeing or going through. She told me a kangaroo got in through the window. She screamed and it took off. I thought nothing of it, calmed her down with conversation, and finished the call and went to sleep. Later, however, I would put 2 and 2 together and discover her encounter was indeed a Dogman and could have been nothing else. It had to have been a Dogman. This is what she told me. She was watching TV late one night in her living room around midnight. The living room is surrounded by windows that are pulled up and out like 90-degree awning-style openings. To open the window, you would have to grab the window and pull up and out. So she's watching TV and she hears this crashing sound of the curtains and looks over about 5 meters away and sees this black arm reaching in. She claims she not only saw the arm but the chest as well, and a big one at that. Someone apparently getting into the house. She thought it was one of the islanders of the fly-in, fly-out workers across the road breaking in drunk or something. She screamed and it took off. Now this is where it gets weird. Her second encounter confirms in my eyes that the black arm and huge chest was a Dogman. She heard a banging against the glass window, again in the living room. She looked over and saw what she said was a black kangaroo, and living in Australia, I can tell you kangaroos are never black. It was banging its face against the window on the outside of the house, 7 feet off the ground. Not jumping like a roo, but headbutting the glass and making a bleeding sound. She couldn't really describe it. She was sounding terrified at the time and crying when I was talking to her about it. Would a Roo do that to a person? No way. She has always felt like she was being watched, and when she called me that night, she told me a kangaroo jumped through the window. Then later, she told me its face, arm, and chest were black, and it was shaped like a man. She could hardly describe it, like she was remembering scenes from a dream. Also, around the back of the house is an area between our back fence and the perimeter fence where late one night my sister and her partner heard great heavy galloping past the house. What else could it have been? I can only conclude a Dogman. I would not be so sure if I hadn't heard of the sightings in the same general area from multiple sources. Absolutely terrifying, but I feel an attraction to these things and Yahwehs and cryptids in general. If money were no issue, I would spend much time and resources looking for these things. Also, my mother said the scariest part was the eyes. She said in a split second when the black kangaroo was headbutting her living room window, she said the eyes were penetrating and extremely creepy. But these encounters lasted only a small collection of moments. Today's second subscriber Dogman encounter. Hey Jeff, here's a little bit about myself and where I live. I'm a widow living in a small town not far from the area the Bray Beast, aka Dogman, has been seen many times. I live across the street from a small park. Last spring I was walking home around 11 p.m. after work. It's only 3 blocks and used to be a relaxing, easy walk. As I got near my driveway, something walked down my neighbor's driveway, across the sidewalk, and into the park. As this thing walked past me, I first thought deer. No, deer don't have a face like a half-bear dog head. It was too big to be a dog. It was taller at the shoulders than 4 feet mailbox. This thing walked 15 feet from me under a street lamp. It was the blonde, like deer. It seemed not to notice me standing there confused. It was all wrong. It walked into the pitch black and stopped, turned and stared at me. I had a small dim flashlight in my pocket. I shined it in the direction I felt it was. I saw red eyes staring at me. Now, I wasn't afraid, but I was frozen, staring back. I remember wishing my light was brighter so I could see the whole animal. It stared into my soul. I felt like it was reading my mind somehow, and then it turned away and walked off to the back side of the park. I could move again and walked into my home, then noticed a 10-minute walk home took over an hour. To this day, I don't know what it was or what happened. I no longer walk home due to this, and a few months after had a major heart attack and can only work a few hours a week due to heart failure. I've never told anyone about that night. Oh, and the next morning I went out to look. This thing was not standing on a picnic table like I thought it was. It was standing up and it was tall. Hope my ramblings make sense. Today's third subscriber Dogman encounter. Jeff, my encounter happened around 3 or 4 years ago. At the time, I lived between Homerville and Cogdell, Georgia. My wife and I were on our way to Waycross to do some shopping. We would usually go there by way of Highway 122, as we did this time. This stretch of 122 is over 20 miles of pines, wherever you look. There are some bar pits, ponds along the way. Houses are few and far between. We started our little trip early, just after sunrise. As we were approaching a curve, I noticed skid marks from a diesel, semi, or large dump truck. They appeared to be fresh. Then I noticed debris. Large and small pieces of this vehicle were all over the road and on both sides of the road, including a badly mangled up bumper. The next thing that got my attention was a huge black mass lying in a ditch on the right side of the road. As I was taking this all in, I had slowed from 55 to 25 miles an hour. The closer I got to this black mass, the more detailed my observation of it was. I got a much better look than I had wished. It was a bit twisted. Its wolf-like head was face up and slightly away from me, with its mouth open, and its chest was towards me. Both its huge, bulky arms were bent at the elbow, with its hand slightly curled in towards its chest. One of its legs was stretched out into the ditch. Its foot appeared to be digigraded. I couldn't see the other leg. It was hairy all over. Its hair was longer around the neck and shoulders, and was much shorter on the chest and abdominal area. Its chest and abdominal area was much like a human bodybuilder. I didn't see its genitals, but I'm pretty sure it was a male. It was also dead, I believe. The instant I realized my eyes were not playing tricks on me, I floored the gas pedal. Neither my wife or me spoke a word about 5 minutes. I broke the silence by asking my wife if she saw that thing in the ditch. She said yes. I asked her what she thought it was. She said, "Werewolf?" I told her I said I think so as well. At the time, neither of us had ever heard of the Dogman. I found out about the Dogman when I started researching and trying to make sense of what I saw. That's my Dogman experience, not very exciting or horrifying enough to do a show on. Real quick, just a breakdown or kind of like an explanation on this one. The subscriber had reached out yesterday, I believe. I had noticed a new subscriber commenting, and I read his comment, and then he had stated that he had a Dogman encounter. I said, "Send it to me, please." He did, as you know, and he last sentence of this is, "That's my Dogman experience. Not very exciting or horrifying enough to do a show on." Well, as we all know, any encounter is, especially this one, because now we have a dead Dogman lying in a ditch. He took off naturally, like anyone would do. One of the main reasons why he shared this with me was in hopes of this driver that hit the Dogman would come forth. I hope he really does, and if you are a subscriber of my channel, my email is in the description below. Please reach out to me. This subscriber and myself would love to hear what you've got to say. Also, where did this body of this Dogman go? Just another little cover-up by the government, guys. I'm thinking the highway department probably came, scooped it up, had no idea what the fuck it was, but you know, the government probably came in some helicopters and took it away. But I just wanted to kind of do a little talk about this one because I thought it was an interesting view that he had by wanting to share this, because he wants to get a hold of this other driver that had hit the Dogman. So once again, if you are this person, and by the 8,400 and whatever subscribers, this is you, reach out to me, because I would love to hear what you have to say, and this gentleman would love to hear what you have to say as well. So on to the next encounter, which is a update. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the initial encounter and then a couple of updates that just came in. So Jeff, first I want to tell you that I'm a subscriber of yours, though I wasn't until I saw what I did just outside of the light that my work shed provides. It was back in April or early May. The night was misting, heavy with cloud cover. It was so dark out that even with the light on, you couldn't see into the gloom. Now I'm telling you this because all that I could see was its eye shine. Now on to some local info. I live outside of Hot Springs, Arkansas, about 5 miles from Jack Mountain, down the road called Amity. The road stretches for miles along what they call a mountain here in Arkansas. It's nothing but backwoods area out here, and there are no lights out here other than a house here and there. I think that people that live along this mountain know there's something out here because once it gets dark, there's no one outside, not even in the summer. So a little bit about myself. I'm an outdoors man, though I don't hunt with a gun. The way I was taught was anyone can pull a trigger, but it takes skill to use a bow. I fish on a regular basis and in places that you have to hike to. My shop is used for rebuilding Japanese motorcycles and most of the time modifying my Ninja. I don't scare easy as I have lived all over the country, including Syracuse and even Oswego, and there are some really strange things out there. Now, as I was saying, the night was dreary, heavy, misting, clouded night. It was so dark out that you couldn't see the shadows out 10 feet past where the light went. The time was about 11:30, and my English foxhound came running up, scared. She then sat down and tracked something with her head and eyes into the darkness heading down the driveway, just out past my 30-foot Four Winds Elite camper. The whole time that she was doing this, she was growling. That is when it hit me that there was something out there. After a minute, everything went dead silent. No animals, no birds, no bats, no bugs. I mean, you could have heard a pin drop into the moist soil. That's how silent it was. A minute later, Ina, my dog, looked off to my left and started growling again. So I grabbed my flashlight out of the shed and shined it in the direction that she was looking and growling. And about 15 feet into the sickeningly dark gloom was a set of eyes, about 4.5 feet off the ground, watching us. Now these eyes weren't red or blue or even green, like they are when most people see them. They were a solid white, like there was no pupil in them. Whatever this thing was, it did not seem to want to come into the light. If anything, it wanted to stay out of it as much as possible, as it seemed to back up even more and make sure it was not seen at all. But when I turned the light on high, I could see its eye shine still watching, only about 25 yards further out. What was really scary was when it seemed to stand straight up, its height raised by at least 3 feet more. After what seemed like 10 minutes, even though it could have been 2 or 3, it closed its eyes and then turned and walked away, making noise like it wanted me to know that it was moving away from us. After about 10 minutes, my dog stopped growling and walked into the shop until I was done painting a bike, and then ran to the front door and waited impatiently while looking around in all directions, including under the camper. Once inside the camper, I turned off all the lights and grabbed a blade that I had forged and waited for whatever this thing was to come back, but it didn't come back that night. I say that night because there are nights here where the dogs of the neighbors are going all at once, where you can hear them even through the closed windows and music playing, and then everything will go completely silent. And even my fiancé will bring this point up to me from time to time. Update. So 2 nights ago, me and my fiancée, Michelle, let Ina out to go to the bathroom about 11 o'clock, and we went with her with flashlights. She was acting normal out there at first until out of the blue she started growling at something again and darted about 30 feet out, when she came to a stop with both me and Shell running after her. When we caught up to her, she was on the other side of a barbed wire fence that separates the property from our neighbors. The odd thing was she was just sitting in front of several thick pine trees, being silent as she could, like she was completely terrified. As Shell ran up with her flashlight, she was shining into the trees, and There were a set of glowing amber eyes that ran deeper into our neighbor's yard of ponderosa pines, and deeper into the shadows. As it ran, we both saw its eyes, and the coyotes in the area went completely wild. That's when we heard a twig snap further in front of us, and I turned the light on and took a few steps closer to the noise and shined my light in the general direction of the sound. And there, standing in the dark area of the trees, was another set of yellowish red eyes just watching us. It stayed in that spot watching us and ducked away from the light behind a tree several times before it slowly moved away. We both stayed there holding our weapons, she with a military-grade bat and me with my hand-forged bow katana at the ready. We watched this thing as it blinked several times. As we watched it, we both knew it was actually alive and not some trick of the eyes, before it moved silently away. There's something definitely out here in this mountain. I don't know if it's a squatch or a dogman or something else completely, but it is really creepy when you walk the 25 feet over to the shed and feel every hair on your body stand to attention at once. When you do end up doing some field research, I would strongly recommend coming out here to this area of Arkansas. This is an update from his fiancée. This just occurred on the 19th, so Sunday. Hello, my name is Michelle, and I'm a subscriber of your Dogman Encounter channel. I would like to tell you about my unknown encounter that happened on January 19th, 2020. At about 12:05, roughly, and I was waiting outside for about 15 minutes until my mom pulled up and had some food for me and my fiancé. My fiancé and I live outside of Hot Springs, Arkansas, where it's all woods and mountain, and it's always dark as shit out here. I first heard sounds of coyotes, and then I heard some other howling noises. But first things first, I just want to let everyone know that I was outside just waiting for my mom to bring us some food. I saw some sets of eyes, and I know that they were deer eyes, and there is normally not deer this low during hunting season here in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And I know that it has scared the deer down off the mountain that we live at the bottom of. And so this is my unknown counter for everyone. This final update to this story for now is goes along with the picture that you guys have been staring at and probably wondering what the picture is from this entire time. This was shot through a window of my camper that faces the mountainside. But the reason why I know something is there is because I can take the same picture and it's not there anymore. If you zoom in on it, where you can see the eyes, you can see its eyes and a snout. And above the eyes on the left side is a pointed ear. If you look down the left side past the shoulders, you can see its left arm bent with a hand and a thumb pointing up. I'm not sure what it is, but this is one of many here. Now, those of my religion would tell you that it is a child of Fenris, or a watcher of the forest. The weird thing so far is when I was talking to my mother on the phone in Gaelic a couple of weeks ago, it seemed to back away. I find this weird because Gaelic has a strong Norse background to it. It also stays out of the distance of the homes around here and in the woods, at least so far. Alright guys, so 4 terrifying subscriber Dogman encounters. The one from Australia is definitely crazy. When I first got interested in the Dogman, or not when I first got interested, but when I first started reading things online about the Dogman, in the older books that I read, it was just pretty much like Rougarou, werewolf. But then 10, 15 years ago, a lot of references to the Dogman were the appearance of kind of like a kangaroo-looking animal. That's what I found interesting about this one encounter from Australia, on top of it being from Australia and this poor guy's mom. You know, I mean, she's not old, but getting up there, and that's just freaky as all hell, you know. I just hope it doesn't bother her anymore, or I hope she moved. I didn't really ask, which I am going to. Now, the second subscriber encounter, I'm not going to share names, but we all know and love this person. She's a commenter, and it baffled me and blew me away when, out of the blue, I got this email from her, and I was like, get the fuck out, really? Like, I just thought, you know, a lot of people just like learning about the Dogman or hearing about cryptids. I never would have thought this woman would have had a encounter. And it's an insane encounter. I really want to emphasize, you know, if you are a subscriber out there or just a listener and you have an encounter, no matter how small you think it is not. The reason why is because our brains are molded to view things one way by society. So when we have such a brief sighting of one, you know, a glimpse, even that's a huge encounter, because as society has taught us, they're not supposed to exist. The third encounter, I really, really hope that the guy who was driving the semi or large dump truck that smashed the Dogman is on this channel, and, you know, maybe started listening to other Dogman channels and found mine, because the person that was behind you a ways, that's a big interest of his, is to see what you experienced, and mine too. So definitely a crazy encounter. It's dead. It's lying on the side of the road. You know, so who hit the damn thing and who picked the damn thing up? And how scared were they? So if you're one of the guys that picked it up, feel free to reach out too. The last encounter, Mike and Michelle, you've got something crazy going on out there. He sent me the update and the picture a couple of days ago, and I've been sitting on it and checking out the picture periodically, and I was blown away. And just imagine how scary, you know, I mean, I don't know anything about Hot Springs, Arkansas, but it sounds like where he's at, it's not even densely populated. So, I mean, that's even scarier. I'd love to hear more updates from Mike and Michelle. Hopefully they don't have to give us any more. Hopefully whatever these things are leaves. He actually thinks that there are anywhere between, well, himself and Michelle actually think there are anywhere between 5 to 2. So, I don't know. Just be careful if you guys go out into the woods at any time. I don't know. Also, if you guys can't make out the picture, email me, and I will gladly share the picture with you guys as well. So with that, guys, my throat's getting a little dry. Got a little bit of cold going on, and I am completely drained. It's been great having my kiddo here, but it is just draining. That's another reason why I didn't get an upload out yesterday. I wanted to, but I was frazzled, or whatever you want to call it, by the X. And every time I tried to record something, I couldn't even get a couple of words out. So I apologize for that, guys. Now, with that, I want to bid you farewell.